Hello, how are you, sixth form? Today we're going to continue with Billionaire Boy, Chapter 20. Chapter 20. A beach ball rolled in hair. Bun-fresh towers pulsated with music. Colored lights spun in every room. Hundreds of people swarmed around the house. This was a party that was going to get complaints about the noise from people in Sweden. Joe had no idea that there was a party at the house tonight. Dad hadn't mentioned anything at breakfast, and Joe had invited Lauren over for dinner. As it was Friday night, they could stay up late too. It was going to be perfect. Maybe tonight they might even kiss. Sorry, I had no idea about this, said Joe, as they approached the giant stone steps at the front of the house. It's cool. I love a party, replied Lauren. As darkness fell and strangers tumbled out of the house clutching bottles of champagne, Joe took Lauren's hand and led her through the huge oak front door. Wow, this is some house, shouted Lauren over the music. What? Said Joe. Lauren put her mouth to Joe's ear so she could be heard. I said, whoa, this is some house. But Joe still couldn't really hear. Feeling the heat of her breath so close to him was so exhilarating he stopped listening for a moment. Thank you, shouted Joe back into Lauren's ear. Her skin smelled sweet, like honey. Joe searched all over the house for his dad. It was impossible to find him. Every room was oozing with people. Joe didn't recognize a single one of them. Who on earth were they all? Guzzling cocktails and gobbling finger food like there was no tomorrow. Being short, Joe really found it hard to see over them. His dad wasn't in the snooker room. He wasn't in the dining room. He wasn't in the massage room. He wasn't in the library. He wasn't in the other dining room. He wasn't in his bedroom. He wasn't in the reptile house. Let's try the pool room, shouted Joe in Lauren's ear. You've got a pool? Cool, she shouted back. They passed a woman bent over vomiting by the sauna as a man, presumably her boyfriend, patted the small on her back supportively. Some party guests had either dived or fallen into the pool and were bobbling about in the water. Joe enjoyed swimming, and the thought that none of these people looked like they would get out of the pool if they needed a pee clouded his mind. Just then he spotted his dad, wearing just a pair of swimming trunks and his curly afro toupee, and dancing to a completely different song than the one that was playing. Covering the wall behind him was a vast mural of strangely muscle-bound version of himself reclining in a thong. The real Mr. Spud boogied badly in front of it, looking more like a beach ball that had been rolled in hair. What's going on, Dad? Joe shouted, half because the music was so loud and half because he was angry his dad hadn't told him anything about the party. Who are those people? Your friends? Oh no, I hired them. £500 each. Partyguests.com. What's the party for, Dad? Well, I know you will be so pleased to know that Sapphire and I have got engaged, shouted Mr. Spud. What the? Said Joe, not able to disguise his shock. It's great news, isn't it? Dad yelled. Still the music boomed. Joe didn't want to believe it. Did this brainless bimbo really have to be his new mom? I asked her yesterday and she said no, But then I asked her again today and gave her a great big diamond ring, and she said yes. Congratulations, Mr. Spud, said Lauren. So, you must be a friend of my son's from school, said Mr. Spud, his words tumbling out clumsily. That's right, Mr. Spud, replied Lauren. Call me Len, please, said Mr. Spud with a smile. And you must meet Sapphire. Sapphire, he shouted. Sapphire tottered over in her shocking yellow high heels and even more shocking yellow mini dress. Would you show Joe's friend the engagement ring, my gorgeous lady love of all time? 20 million quid just for the diamond. Joe spied the diamond on his soon-to-be stepmother's finger. It was the size of a small bungalow. Her left arm was dangling lower than the right with the weight of it. Oh, it's so heavy I can't lift my hand, but if you bend down you can see it, said Sapphire. Lauren stepped closer to get a better look. Haven't I seen you somewhere before? Sapphire asked. Mr. Spud leaped in. No, you haven't, my one true love. Yes, I have, said Sapphire. No, my angel cake. Oh, my God. I know where I see ya. I said shut it, my chocolate sprinkled princess, said Mr. Spud. You done that ad for pot noodle, Sapphire exclaimed. Joe turned to Lauren, who looked at the floor. It's well good. You know that one, Joe, continued Sapphire, for the new sweet and sour flavor. The one where she has to do karate to stop people from nicking it. You are an actress, spluttered Joe. The advert was coming back into focus in his mind. Her hair was different color, and she wasn't wearing an all-in-one yellow catsuit, but it was Lauren all right. I better go, said Lauren. And did you lie about having a boyfriend too? Demanded Joe. Goodbye, Joe, said Lauren before waving past the guests in the pool room, and she ran off. Lauren, shouted Joe after her. Let her go, son, said Mr. Spud sadly. But Joe raced after her and caught up with her just as she reached the stone steps. He grabbed her arm harder than he had anticipated, and she turned around in pain. Ow! Why did you lie to me? Joe stammered. Just forget it, Joe, said Lauren. She suddenly seemed a different person. Her voice was more posh now, and her face less kind. The twinkle in her eye had definitely gone, and the glow around her had turned into a shadow. You don't want to know. Don't want to know what? Look, if you must know, your dad saw me on the pot noodle advert and called my agent. Said you were unhappy at school and paid me to be your friend. It was all fine until you tried to kiss me. She skipped down the steps and ran off down the long drive. Joe watched her go for a few moments before the pain in his heart was so great he had to bend over to stop it. He fell to his knees. A party guest stepped over him. Joe didn't even look up. He felt he was so sad that he was never going to be able to get up again.